franchising your business. And if you're thinking about it, you should understand that franchising is not the goal. It should be viewed as a part of your growth strategy. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 8 mistakes. I see them happen all the time that business owners make when they franchise their business. And these 8 mistakes, you need to avoid them. These are some of the mistakes you need to avoid if you're going to franchise your business. And mistake number 1 that business owners make, they're not ready for franchising. They speak to a consultant or advisor. They have a great business, but they may not be ready yet. Why? Their numbers aren't there yet. The industry may not be ready for another franchise. And most important, the individual, the business owner itself, the founder. Well, franchising may not align with their business goals, their long-term 5-year growth goal. So that first mistake is franchising your business when you're not ready. And what happens next? You go through the process, you get excited, and then a number of months later, you just realize now wasn't the right time, or this doesn't align with your goals. It's a costly mistake and it diverts your attention. That's why right now it's important to evaluate franchising your growth goals, which gets to mistake number 2. These business owners, they have the wrong expectations about franchising. When we discuss franchising, when we discuss alignment, we're speaking with our clients about their unit economics, the industry they're in, and most important, their goals as a founder. If you're going to enter the franchise world, you need to understand your expectations should be focused on a 5-year growth strategy. Anyone that makes franchising sound like get rich quick or grow quick, it's an illusion. When you franchise your business, sure, we become a franchise in 90 to 120 days. You go from where you are now, business owner, to franchisor. But that's just the starting point. You need to view the first 12, 24 months as you enter the franchise world as building a foundation. Your expectation should be to continuously build a foundation, onboard those 1, 2, or 3 pioneering franchisees and building your franchise system around them, making them successful, improving what you offer, improving your support. Franchising doesn't mean just hiring a company, selling a bunch of franchises, and growing on day 1. You need to focus on a 5-year growth strategy. Those expectations need to align. And if a consultant or advisor is selling you on something else, be aware that the reality of franchising and entering the franchise world may not align with what they're promising you. So mistake number 1, you're not ready. Number 2 is the business owner. They don't have the right expectations. They didn't enter the franchise world for the right reasons, and they don't understand the journey ahead. Mistake number 3, business owners, they waste money on franchise development. And when I say franchise development, I mean working with a franchise lawyer, a franchise consultant, advisor to franchise your business. Prepare your FDD, prepare your operations manual, your initial go-to-market strategy and planning. And why do they waste money? Well, you're entering a new industry and you're relying on other companies to help guide you. And there's some great companies out there, and certainly reach out to our team and have that conversation. But more importantly, there's also companies out there that are selling prepackaged everything, where they're combining legal, FDD development, marketing, operations manuals, and many times you're wasting dollars. You're either overpaying at a higher level, or you're paying what sounds like a fair price, but you only find out later, 6 months later, after you become a franchise, that you bought a bunch of generic things. Legal documents that are not prepared by a lawyer, operations manual that's generic, marketing materials that are dated. So you need to evaluate the marketplace. You also need to understand that when you franchise your business, you need to be actively involved, attending conferences, coming to events, be involved in the development process. And when you're vetting a team, really decipher and evaluate the value you're getting. Is legal being done by a lawyer? What really is the right marketing strategy? And are they setting the right expectations? Too many new franchisors, they look back and feel like they've wasted tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And then some feel like they got a bargain, but it cost them much more because they have to redevelop their franchise system. So mistakes 1, 2, and 3 that we see business owners make: not ready, wrong expectations, and 3, they're wasting dollars on development. You become a franchisor in 90 to 120 days. But just remember, that's not the goal. That's the starting point. And as you become a franchisor, you want to be investing in your franchise sales website, coming to a couple of conferences to learn more about franchising, develop your drip campaigns and sequences as you sell. But this needs to happen organically and cost effectively. Mistake number 4 business owners make, well, they're underestimating the costs. And I'm not talking about the development costs to become a franchisor. They're underestimating the cost to sell franchises long term. And again, this connects with expectations. If your expectation is to franchise your business and sell 10 franchises in the first year, that's expensive and it may be unrealistic. Now, there's anomalies and exceptions, right? Depending on the industry you're in. But consider, what does a good growth strategy look like? And I can reflect on a number of our clients that went from local businesses to national brands. And when you look at them in first years 1, 2, and 3, they were cost effective. How? Well, they sold organically. They focused on people that knew them and knew their brand. They onboarded those first groupings of pioneering franchisees. They built out support around them, improved their marketing, improved their technology. And at the end of 2 to 3 years, they had a handful of franchisees that validated, that had great numbers. And what did that do next? It fueled their growth. They joined broker networks, ramped up digital marketing, worked with other companies. But the key to understand is that when you become a franchisor, what sells franchises? Validation and unit economics. And as a new franchisor, you don't have that yet. So you want to build your base. And so when I say underestimating costs, if you're working with a consultant or someone's promising you or encouraging you to franchise your business and they'll sell franchises for you and it's not going to cost a lot, it's not true. Franchise marketing expenses are high. Your growth goals need to align with your budget. And so if you want to sell 10, 20, 30 franchises in your first 2 years, it's going to be very expensive, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Conversely, if you're focused on an organic growth strategy, you could be cost effective. You could do it the right way and build a 5-year growth trajectory. Now, mistake number 5, and we see this happen. Someone franchises their business, they enter the franchise world, they're not gaining traction. It's because they didn't set their marketing right. They didn't position their franchise brand. And how does this happen? We see it all the time. Say you're in a pet health industry or a pet food industry, or you're in a different, whatever segment you're in. What we see the marketing for new franchisors, they focus on their consumer marketing. They focus on the good they achieve through their product or service, but they're overlooking the fact that they're now a franchisor, that your customers for franchise sales are not your consumers. They're individuals. They're people that are looking for opportunity. They want to buy a business. They want to change their lives, and they want to, most of the time, replace their income. So as a franchise brand, your marketing and positioning, sure, your product or service may be great, and that's part of the story, but you can't overlook your positioning as a franchise brand. And we see this happen often. I'll see someone, a new franchisor, they've been in the marketplace for 2 years, they'll contact us, they're not gaining any traction. And when we look behind the curtain or we look at their website, they worked with a consultant, advisor, the marketing plan is generic. They're talking about their product or service. They're not talking about how their franchise can transform the lives of their franchise buyers. So mistake number 5, they don't position their franchise offering, and that results in wasted dollars on marketing that's not effective. And that gets to mistake number 6, which is you need to understand when you do franchise your business, what is your opportunity profile? And we discuss this often. So if you're in a low startup cost business that someone could operate from home on a part-time basis, maybe the opportunity you're offering your franchisees, well, that's supplemental income. Versus if you're a high build out, high expense restaurant or retail business, well, in that case, your opportunity profile is more aligned with income replacement and legacy building. And why is this so important? It's important because new franchisors, if you're a restaurant, think you're competing with similar restaurants. Or if you're a low startup cost home-based business, that you're competing directly in your category. You're not. You need to understand that you're competing with other franchises and other businesses at similar estimated investments and similar opportunity profiles, economic opportunity. So you need to align what you offer franchisees from an economic perspective. Mistake number 7, and this happens so often. We see these business owners, they franchise their business. Many times they've made these other mistakes, right? They had the wrong expectations where they think sales are easy or that a consultant was going to do it for them. They become obsessed with franchise sales. And of course, you want to sell franchises and you want to onboard those pioneering franchisees and build your base. But when you prioritize sales, you're sort of inverting the economics of franchising. Your franchise model shouldn't be built around sales. It should be built around onboarding franchisees that are successful and profitable. Of course, you need to sell a franchise to do that. But we see brands that go through years 1 and 2, they're just sales focused. And what they neglect, the profitability of the franchisees, the satisfaction of the franchisees. And even if they have no franchisees yet, you could say, Charles, well, of course they have to prioritize sales. Yes. But when they focus on sales as the priority, their messaging gets off track. Their messaging is unclear or gets distorted and it repels franchise buyers. Instead of focusing on the sale, focus on the support. Instead of focus on the sale, focus on the transformation you offer your franchisees. Focus on the unit economics they could achieve. Focus on how you're going to help them achieve and become a successful business. So again, deprioritize the sale, focus on the franchisee success. It's going to help you sell franchises. And as you improve franchisee performance, you're improving the potential to grow your franchise system, which gets to mistake number 8. People think that franchising is a destination. It's not. It's a process. It's a journey. It should be viewed as a 5-year journey. So they franchise their business. They spend this money. And again, some of the mistakes, they've spent too much money on the franchise development. They wasted dollars or gave away equity in their brand new franchise company. They get their FDD, their operations manual, their initial marketing, and they think they're done. Just sit back, sell franchises, and grow. It doesn't work that way. You need to be consistently improving your franchise offering, your FDD, the brand positioning on your website, the founder story you're telling. You keep reinventing your franchise sales process, your discovery presentation. It's not like a consultant just hands you this document and you're good to go. Consistent evolution and improvement, and it takes time. When we franchise a business, when we're speaking with our clients, sure, you become a franchise 60 to 90 days or 90 to 120, but the key is viewing the first 12 and 24 months as your time to season your franchise offering. Understand what we're presenting in the FDD, going through versions 1, 2, and 3 of your website, telling your founder's story, coming to conferences, understanding the economic positioning of your franchise brand, and building out your discovery process. And that's what leads to success. So if you're thinking about franchising, avoid these mistakes. And if you're already a franchisor and you've made some of these mistakes, well, the good news and, mistake number 8, you need to keep improving and evolving, and the opportunity is there. We see a ton of brands, they get stuck. They go on this 2-year loop where they followed all these advisors and investors and wasted dollars. But if you roll up your sleeves, you could reboot your franchise opportunity. The mistakes you made, they could be good lesson points, good pain points for making meaningful change in the future. So avoid those 8 mistakes. If you have any questions, absolutely reach out to our team.